This is a Security Weekly production.
Tenable Network Security, creators of Nessus, the world's best vulnerability scanner. Jumpstart your security program today and evaluate Security Center CV, the continuous monitoring solution. For more information, visit them on the web at tenable.com. ProXPN is the leading VPN service offering free accounts, excellent premium features, and an outstanding commitment to privacy and security online. Use the discount code WEEKLY and save 50% off for life. NetSparker, the developers of desktop and cloud-based web application security scanners that enable you to automatically identify vulnerabilities in your web applications and web services. NetSparker scanners employ a unique and dead-accurate vulnerability scanning engine that automatically verifies vulnerabilities with a proof of concept. For more information, visit them on the web at netsparker.com or email them at contact@netsparker.com. Overwhelmed when it comes time to choose which cigar to smoke? Confused by the differences between 60 ring gauge, Robusto, Corona, and Lancero? Do you yearn to try all the new cigars on the market, but need a guide to tell you where to start? Look no further than the Stogie Geek Show. Hosted by yours truly and Will Cooper, we've made it our mission to educate both new and experienced cigar smokers. Tune in for interviews with leaders in the cigar industry, how-to segments, and weekly cigar reviews. Visit StogieGeeks.com to subscribe to our podcast, watch the live show, and discover our video archives. Stogie Geeks, geeks kicking ass. Welcome back, everyone, to Security Weekly. We're here to talk about the stories for this week.
Booyah. I'm glad you added one of your stories there that I forgot to.
Me too. I was doing that for you.
Thanks. Good, I'm glad you got it.
So what is the deal with the ex-Tor developer who unmaxed Tor users for the FBI? This one seemed bogus.
Which one is this?
I thought it was controversial, and then I read the story, and I was like,
the way I see it is just clickbaiting.
Which story was this?
Yeah, story number two.
So the guy worked at a college that actually contributed some code. He contributed some code to Vidalia, which used to be part of the Tor project.
Vidalia was like a client, right? It was like a Tor client.
And we're talking 7-8 years ago that he left the project, and now he works for a vendor that actually provides implants and tools to the FBI. And because he worked at Tor so many years ago, it's FUPA that he contributes to law enforcement. I don't know. I think it's just clickbaiting, the title and everything.
I agree. I wanted to make sure we covered it, just so people know, don't fall for the clickbait. It's not that interesting of a story. Anyway.
And also, what's wrong with him working with the FBI to track criminals?
To track mostly child pornography is what the article said.
But was it limited to child pornographers or was it everybody?
So a lot of people either take one of the two extremes. Either the FBI can do no wrong, or the other extreme, the FBI is pure evil. I think that there's a middle ground there. Yes, they'll do whatever they need to get their case done, and sometimes I don't blame them. Other times I think they go too far. But generally they try to do good. They're a law enforcement agency.
Right. But having said that, I do have a general distrust for the government, more so than usual lately, because I went on this binge watching spree of all these like hacker documentaries.
Nice.
So I did the Edward Snowden one. I did another one that covered Weave. I did one that covered Aaron Schwartz. I did another general one that talked about Jeremy Hammond? Who was Hammond, not Kevin?
Jeremy Hammond.
Yes. Was it
Why is
Jeremy?
that name?
It was Hammond.
Anonymous.
Yeah. It was anonymous.
So my suggestion,
they covered,
can you put these in the show notes, links to these in the show notes?
I'm going to go find them. I'm toying with creating a blog post that lists them because it was really, I mean, when you watch one, you're like, okay, but like you watch, there's like 4 of them essentially that I thought were really informative. And like, I remember covering all this in the news when we did the show.
Yeah.
But it's been a while, and it kind of like breaks it down and makes you remember things, and it makes you not want to trust the government at all whatsoever.
And you get significant portions of the story that maybe we didn't have before.
So, the Snowden documentary. Now, fall wherever you will on Snowden, the government, NSA spying, whatever. Put that aside. this was one of the best documentaries that I watched, right?
Nice.
And it's not because like I said, I'm not siding with anyone. I'm not, it's not about my views or opinion on the story. However, what I didn't know is that Snowden went to Laura someone, who is a controversial documentary filmmaker. And that's one of the initial people that he was leaking documents to. So she flipped on her camera. So he actually left his job and said, I'm going out sick or whatever, told his girlfriend I'm traveling for work, and flew to Hong Kong. When he got in Hong Kong, Laura started filming. So you get to see Snowden like right after, like in a couple of weeks time frame when he's in Hong Kong, and like you see him watching the events unfold as, what's the journalist's name? We got a call to get him on the show.
Glenn
Who is it?
Greenwald.
Glenn Greenwald. Thank you, NotKevin. Glenn Greenwald is also there in the hotel room as well. Now, Glenn's covered a lot of other stories that, along these topic lines, including more recently the Bitcoin creator Satoshi. He's covering that story now. Yeah. But you get to see Snowden in the hotel room with the two journalists talking about OPSEC and telling them about all the things that are bad, watching the news as the stories are leaked. It was really interesting.
You know what? I always appreciate any kind of documentary that is done from the most fair and impartial sense that it can be done. And if it's not really biased in any one direction, it's just laying out the facts.
Oh no, there's a whole lot of bias in these documentaries. Let's just throw that out there. Yeah, no, but it's interesting to watch. Well, it's interesting to see. Like you can see where the bias is, and that in itself is kind of interesting because you're like, well, yeah, all right, you're a little biased there, but Aaron Schwartz thing is interesting.
For yourself.
Yeah, you can
judge for
absolutely,
yourself.
absolutely, you can judge for yourself. So the Aaron Schwartz thing I thought was interesting to get a little background on that, more background on that story. I didn't realize how brilliant he actually was. Like from a very early age, that was pretty neat to see. They had footage and interviews, parents and brothers and stuff like that. So
speaking of this documentary thing, it just came to me. One of our guys at work, Jared, turned me on to this series at atavist.com, mastermind.atavist.com, atavist.com, and it's the story of Paul Calder LaRue, who was allegedly, and I haven't finished reading the whole story yet because it's coming out in weekly installments. He was one of the guys that created TrueCrypt.
Okay.
And had this total crazy drug property cartel and just unbelievable type of stuff, to the point that he was one of the amazing software guy, and if I remember correctly, he was one of the main authors for the crypto package that we used to use in a former life. That was absolutely one of the best full disk encryption pieces of software, and I'm trying to remember the name of it, and the name is escaping me. Russian company. Amazing story about this guy, and brilliant dude, and just how he went to the dark side.
Recommend enough reading this entire series of articles. It's long form journalism that will take you on a very different ride that you're expecting from someone who is allegedly behind TrueCrypt. The line used of "this is James Bond stuff in the real world" is brought up during people he hired as hitmen. So it's this unbelievable story about a brilliant person who runs this entire shadow cartel that touches everything from call centers from tech companies to running drugs and guns all over the world.
Yep, and murder.
So
crazy.
Here are some of the documentaries I watched. The Internet's Own Boy is the Aaron Schwartz one.
Okay.
I saw that one.
Downloaded is actually the one about Sean Fanning and Sean Parker for Napster.
He went to my high school.
Yeah, that was
many years later.
That was kind of interesting. Hackers Are People Too is a really funny one.
That's
done by the
DEF CON.
Schwartz.
That's the DEF CON documentary.
Yeah, the Schwartz House did that one.
Yep.
Citizen 4 is the one
about
Laura Poitras.
Portrayus.
Yep. Is that how you say that? Petraeus? Yeah. So that was a really good one too. There was another couple of them in there. I might have gone to Netflix to watch some of them on Amazon, but I'll try and get a complete list.
Yep. What was one of the other? The other documentaries done by Jason Scott. There may not necessarily be hacker documentaries, but absolutely awesome. Get Lamp and the BBS documentary are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, there was one that covered the whole anonymous LolSec anti-sec and went into the whole story behind Cebu, which I thought was interesting. I had forgotten how long he was actually an informant for the FBI. Like, basically the FBI created anti-sec through Cebu, which I had forgotten about. Wow, it's interesting.
Now it's going back to me. Jeremy Hammond was
yes
involved in a lot of that and is behind the Stratfor leak.
Yes, the Stratfor leak. And did he go to... Jerry Hammond went to jail, right, for that?
Yes, I believe he is still in jail.
Still in jail, yes. Yeah, they covered that and Weave's story, I think, in another documentary that I watched. They kind of flip-flop between...
Weave right here, WGET is not a crime.
Yes. Which is interesting because they said Weave online is a complete asshole.
Oh, yeah.
But in real life, he's not that bad of a person to be around. That's what they said. His persona online. That's what the documentary wanted you to believe.
I haven't hung out with them, so I can't comment either way.
I can't say firsthand, but...
epic internet troll.
I can see that being an epic internet troll, and then in real life, you're not.
Because not that long ago, we had a story about him.
Yeah.
That he printed out anti-Semitic stuff on internet-connected printers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's trolling.
He is. I would tell you, when you see him in the documentary, he is an interesting person.
Oh, yeah.
Very interesting person. Yes. So.
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, I've got this LinkedIn request from this guy named NotKevin.
What is that?
Decline it immediately.
Yeah, that's it.
He doesn't send LinkedIn requests to me, so that's...
Oh, and so what? So there was a story about...
Whatever.
Someone apparently posted on Twitter that...
Someone posted on Twitter? No way!
Yes.
No way.
Now, I'm not sure why they posted on Twitter rather than contacting GR Security directly. Maybe he did. The article doesn't state that, and it's from our friends at LReg. But he basically causes a panic in the kernel, exploiting a flaw in the GR Security patches, and then points out in the source code, and is kind of inflammatory about how to fix the problem and how glaring the bug was, and you can see the code example in there.
Which story is this, Paul?
Story number 4.
Okay, does the Linux out infosec does it Torvalds?
Paul, you need a new set of lungs, brother.
I do. It's allergies. So the proper fix, they say, will be in the next patch, but good luck obtaining it because GR Security they blocked his Twitter account and blocked him by IP address as well. Yeah. That would blocking by IP address.
I was going to say, that stops anybody.
Connect to crack web, connect to neighbor Wi-Fi.
But then GR Security also blocked anyone who liked or retweeted Martin's original tweet that was disclosing the vulnerability and put up a new patch stating, and I quote, "New test patch up with improved protection against irrelevant InfoSec ankle biters." I'm not sure why you would be that inflammatory on both. I mean...
So
what he posted originally was a little inflammatory. It was a little trolly, like a touch of troll, just like a sprinkle of troll was in there. He called him out in a comment and he said, try reading the code next time. I mean, that's just that's a little trolling, right? But they came back with a lot of trolling.
Yep. The proper fix, aka not yours, Mr. High Horse Captain Obvious, will be in the next patch. But good luck obtaining it.
Yeah, it seemed kind of disjointed to me. Overreaction. Maybe on both parts. I don't know. I don't know the whole story. Don't know the whole story.
They say doth protest too much.
Yes.
The overweighted trolling reaction. I don't know. What the hell am I talking about?
I don't know.
6 vulnerabilities in NTP.
Again?
So Cisco disclosed to the open source project 6 vulnerabilities in NTP. And who was the...
What's the time? It's time to get
Who was the researcher that we had on that was talking about... Sharon Goldberg. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Sharon Goldberg talked about NTP vulnerabilities. So go watch that episode with Sharon Goldberg and then go read this article, and it'll make a lot more sense.
Oh, man.
Because a lot of the same things she talked about in attacking NTP is covered here. Because I was reading through, I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, yeah, that could happen. Which is interesting because...
There's a little irony in there, right? There's an NTP authentication timing vulnerability.
Right.
I'm sorry.
We talked about that. And there's also an NTP ephemeral association Sybil vulnerability. I hate it when that happens.
Sounds like you should go to the doctor and get some cream for that.
So apparently it's a Sybilist vulnerability. There's no limit, so the English explanation is there's no limit how many peers can share the same key. It means that an attacker can discover the key. They can set up malicious peers. With enough malicious peers sharing the wrong time, they can drown out the correct time. That's like something I believe Sharon was talking about on the show.
Right, you just need to get enough Stratum 1 peers with the wrong key. And
that's fucking cool.
Game over.
So it was pretty cool having had Sharon on the show. Does anyone know anything about OpenSSL high impact vulnerability coming out?
I heard that there was a
rumor.
pre-release. Yep, the pre-release is saying we've got patches coming on such and such a date. These versions aren't supported. And by the way, there's a high vulnerability in this one.
A high impact vulnerability,
but no logo.
No logo or theme song.
There is no logo, theme song, or name yet.
When is it coming out so I can take vacation?
You should go on vacation, Carl. You should totally figure out when this is coming out and take vacation.
I think that's my plan.
Does it say? It says upcoming security fixes, and there's a link that I can click on.
Wait a minute.
On the OpenSSL mailing list.
Pre-release advisory. There we go.
Doesn't say when. Please see the final picture. Further
these releases will be made available March 1st, 2016.
May 3rd, 2016. The release will be made on May 3rd, 2016 between approximately 1200 and 1500 UTC.
Crap.
You could go to the bathroom for a really long time during that.
I won't be able to take vacation. Crap.
I'm
calling dead. Calling sick. Calling dead.
Calling sick now. On May 3rd, I'm calling
Why a
sick.
Sunday? Why a freaking Sunday?
It's even on a Sunday.
Yep, May 3rd. Yep.
That's right. Well, because that's not this Sunday, is it?
No. Is it a Sunday?
Yeah,
is it a Sunday?
May 1st is this Sunday.
May 3rd. No, May 3rd.
No, 3rd? Okay, 3rd, I'm traveling to HQ.
You're going to be in the mothership.
Oh, shit.
May 3rd, Carlos.
I think they have like some pull-out cots. You can sleep right in the office, Carlos, to deal with this impending OpenSSL vulnerability.
I'm going to have the PMs on me all fucking day.
You're going to have the PMS on you?
You better hide in the office. You better hide. I'll give you some places you can hide. Contact me afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah. High vulnerability.
Oh, so did you see this one? Businesses pay $100,000 to DDoS extortionists who never DDoS anyone. This is like the greatest social engineering attack ever. Because with all this ransomware, right, people are really paranoid about the whole ransomware thing, having to pay ransoms and all this stuff. So these people who call themselves the Armada Collective say that your network will be DDoSed starting on a date if you don't pay the protection fee. 10 Bitcoins per address. Protection fee, 10 Bitcoins at Bitcoin address.
And we'll go 10 Bitcoins for every day of attack.
Okay, I gotcha. Your servers will go on permanently to stop the increase to 20 Bitcoins, and you go to make every day of attack. Right. This is not a joke, they say. They say it's not a joke.
So there hasn't been one business that paid $100,000 that the Armada Collective Bitcoin addresses in total have received
$100,000.
Still. That's cheap for a couple of emails.
I did
That's good. That's good for a couple of emails.
$100,000.
Shit, I got a new business model.
That's awesome.
I'm going to even come in at a reduced rate of 5 Bitcoins.
But like, what if like we're laughing at this now and someone decides, like the next person decides not to pay because like they listen to the show, they read this article, and they're like, oh, that's a scam, I'm not paying. And the next day they do get DDoS.
Yeah, so be careful. Be careful. This is called risk analysis, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's 10 Bitcoins. What's it? Bitcoin's worth about $450. That's
about that.
Not a small amount of money.
Yeah, $4,500 per address. Now, the other one I saw, I don't know where I just stumbled across it just a few minutes ago. Someone meant to send $5 in Bitcoins and actually sent $137,000 in Bitcoins to someone.
Ooh, whoops. Ouch.
So the other article I had that's kind of funny. 10 newsmakers who shaped security in the past decade, right? I love these articles for the entertainment value.
Did you see yourself in there?
No.
What?
I mean, you do kind of like hope to see yourself in one of these lists someday, right? And you kind of read one like hoping to see yourself in them.
Mm-hmm. You get in more of these than I do because I don't get.
Well, I get in the Twitter list. That's just people who are looking to increase their SEO. Dude.
No, you get in a lot. You get in stuff.
So I get into trouble. That's what I get into.
Number one, HD Moore. So security is hot.
Yeah, that's what they say. The tagline, HD Moore is number one, right? And it says HD Moore, and it's a lovely picture of the handsome HD Moore. And the title line is when security is hot, because HD is hot.
Kelly Jackson Higgins, I think, has a secret crush on HD Moore.
When security is hot.
Must be.
Yep. Gary Min.
I don't. That's all I had in the story was just HD Moore.
Dude.
The moral of the story is HD Moore is hot, according to Dark Reading Room.
Well, we knew this already.
Snowden's in the list.
Because
don't forget, I mean, these aren't like people who did good for security. This is 10 newsmakers who shaped security.
Windows Snyder.
Yep, Windows Snyder.
Albert Gonzalez.
Yeah. A couple of convicted people in there.
Dan Kaminsky.
Kaminsky's in there? Okay.
Kaminsky's in there. Yep.
Dave Litchfield.
Let's just rattle off the whole list for everyone. So no one has to go read the article. We'll just tell you who's on the list. How's that?
Snowden.
Sorry, Dark Reading and Kelly Jackson.
Bruce Schneier.
And Joff, yay! No.
Katie Masuris.
Katie, some of these people have been on the show. Charlie Miller and Chris Valesic.
Yep, Charlie Miller and Chris Valesic.
And then there's the other anonymous.
Anonymous.
Jeff Moss, Jeremiah Grossman, Chris Weiss Sopel, and General Keith Alexander. To round out the bonus. There was like a bonus.
Yeah, the other.
Right.
Oh, there's some bonus stuff at the bottom. I can see that. Yeah. Some of these people are in my Rolodex, if I had one.
HD Moore is hot. That's what the article said.
Yeah.
I read it on the internet.
HD Moore and I have shared Kobe beef steak.
So you got stuck on that, didn't you? You got stuck on HD
I did. I couldn't get past the whole
HD Moore being hot.
Because I've always thought that too. And now it's true because it's on the internet and I read it in an article.
Yeah, and if you ever get a chance to sit down with dinner with him and you get him to tell stories about his family, you're like even more hot and bothered because his family is totally awesome.
Hey, so speaking of that, I think we're overdue. We should try to get HD back on the show, I think.
Oh, no, I've been in touch with HD about
Excellent.
we'll do that. All right. So, Larry, sorry, I wanted to get through some of the funny ones while we were on a roll.
Totally cool. I got to hit back a bunch of times to get back to the show notes. The one that you put in was that I wanted that I forgot was the German nuclear power plant infected with malware. Which I thought was
going to be a spectacular story, but it turns out they're infected with Configure, and none of the systems are connected to the internet, so they're calling it like not a big deal.
Yep.
This was like the week of like not big deal stories.
But it was discovered on systems that operate the tools that remove nuclear fuel rods.
That's not very comforting.
Yep. And the other one that it had is one that steals files from computers and is spread through USB sticks. Mm-hmm. So you know how it got from air-gapped network to air-gapped network, which is fucking scary.
Oh, no, wait. We don't call those air-gapped networks. We call those high-latency networks.
That's right.
High latency networks. Very good job.
Oh, the other story that really wasn't a story was Spotify denies hack after users' personal data shows up on Pastebin. And then you read the article and it says, oh, but this could have been from a hack from a while ago, and they're just releasing it now. Like, okay.
And you still got
someone
hacked.
put a story out that's worth reading this week?
Oh, I don't know. Larry's got some good ones.
Okay, let's go to Larry's
So,
stories then. Mine are
one-
obviously complete crap.
One that I found that I skimmed through and didn't dive into because it was really effing complicated was the Office 365 auth bypass.
I hadn't heard about this one.
Yeah, the ability for someone to just basically walk all over Office 365. And we were talking about that today at work, and Tyler said, who was here in the studio.
Oh, yeah, I know Tyler, yeah.
He said, man, those guys that disclosed that to Microsoft must have been doing a little bit of soul searching. Do I disclose this or do I sell this on the market? Because that would have been fucking huge.
I guess Office 365 is pretty popular.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, Google probably has more users in that respect, but
still
big deal.
Office 365 is still big deal.
Big deal in the enterprise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it is fixed, and Microsoft fixed it in 7 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a pretty.
It only
big deal.
brings like $3 billion a year. Was it?
only something.
Their
like
last
that.
earnings calls.
Yep.
Actually, for Microsoft,
Only
that's
$3
probably,
billion.
That's not. Is that a lot in the grand scheme of things for Microsoft, Carlos?
That's pretty good, though.
Yes, in fact, they do celebrate now that almost all of their cloud projects are bringing over $1 billion. So Azure is a couple of $1 billion. Office 365 is a couple of $1 billion. I think between Azure and Office 365, they bring in more than Windows itself and local Office.
That's good. That's good. That's good for them. I'm actually happy to hear that because, as we know, we've seen that transgression from the desktop operating system to cloud mobile. And that whole thing. So that's good.
It's an interesting change from the old days because local Office, quote unquote, used to be the dominant player, as I understood it. And so, they've clearly made that transition. So, good for them.
I really
and good for them for fixing the auth bypass so fast.
And quite honestly, I hope the researchers got some bug bounty money for this.
Hope so too.
I do too.
So that would be interesting. A question for Katie Masuris, a company that has a bug bounty program, and someone chooses to submit a bug outside of the bug bounty program. Will those companies pay bug bounties?
Now we need Katie on the show.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's a freelancer now.
She is.
Yeah, that's right. She is, isn't she?
Yep.
So tell me about geolocation stuff on Twitter.
Throwback Thursday, right? Yeah, so that was my Throwback Thursday article. Out of all of that, there was the tool called Creepy that came out.
Yeah.
Based around some of the theories that came out of Ben Jackson and my work. And I happened to stumble. So from the Office 365 story, the author of that blog post was also apparently tied to Creepy. And there's been a number of revisions of Creepy over the last number of years since it's been out. And it's come a long way, baby. Works on Windows, OS 10, and various Linux distributions, and the ability to do plugin-based additions to Creepy and support a whole bunch of different new social media networks. As social media networks have evolved, this is one of those tools that if you haven't looked at in a while, it's probably a good idea to go back and look at for some open source intelligence stuff.
Nice.
Yep. Still near and dear to my heart.
FBI won't tell Apple how it unlocked the iPhone.
Yep. You know why?
Because paid for a 0 day?
Because the alleged $1.3 million that they paid to do it only paid to unlock the iPhone, didn't pay for the technology to do so. They paid consulting services. Here, unlock my iPhone. Great, it's unlocked. Good. Can we have the source code? No, you didn't pay for that.
You didn't pay for that.
You didn't pay for that. You didn't pay for the O-Day. You just paid for me to use my O-Day on your stuff.
Right.
And walk away.
Now, that does bring a problem when, let's say they do that for another case where the person's not a terrorist and it's not dead, and you need to bring that over to court to put charges against that other person. And their defense goes, okay, we want to know how forensically sound was the technique that you guys used to gather this data. And if they cannot provide it, that evidence can be thrown out of court.
Yeah, well, apparently it's really not a problem because the FBI has been lying to everyone about how they processed and how accurate hair sample DNA tests were for 10 years or longer. So
The government lie?
That was a fun one.
No.
yeah, whatever.
There's a really interesting thing that came out of this, outside of the Apple and FBI and paying a lot of money for this, is that during the kind of whole hullabaloo around this of will the FBI disclose this, and them saying, no, we can't because we don't know how it happened, brought up that there is an interagency body called the Vulnerability Equities Process, whose job it is when they, from my understand, if there is a vulnerability in a software product or what have you, it's their job to weigh the pros and cons of releasing it publicly. And what they essentially said is that because there's no technical details around it, they can't force the disclosure of the vulnerability.
I'd also argue that title sounds very much like an organization that actually purchases Zero Day on behalf of the government.
It kind of feels like it's leaning in that direction, but I had no idea there was an actual process in place for disclosing vulnerabilities.
No,
There's no
how
evidence
about
that the
that
government would do that to destroy power plants in Iran or anything silly like that.
Silly like that, right?
Silly like that. That's not.
And how about the case that the FBI got all of their evidence against a couple of pedophiles thrown out of court because they would not reveal how they infected and identify all of those pedophiles in the black market? And
Yeah, we talked about that.
Like, no,
We talked about that last week, Carlos. Actually,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Carlos, I missed it too.
No, it's
so-
but it's worth bringing up again because it's a very interesting case.
Yeah, they actually said we rather lose the case than make this information available. They actually went against the judge order. We're not doing this.
See, we covered a case where the judge threw out the evidence where they collected it from backdooring a child pornography site because the warrants, they looked into how they obtained the warrants to get information on the computers of the people who connected to the backdoored child porn site, and they threw it out because based on the warrants. They're like, you didn't get the warrants properly authorized, and they threw the case out.
Interesting.
Well, I believe that the case you're referring to is that the warrant was signed in Virginia, but the person they were targeting was in Massachusetts.
Is that why they threw it out? The article I read last week, Kevin, didn't state that, so thank you for that insight. No, it's interesting.
And so it was a jurisdiction thing that you have no legal authority over another state. And
but this week there was in the news that the FBI actually refused a court order to make available to the defense what was the vulnerability that they were able to use against the Tor browser. And they actually replied in the court document that they rather not follow the order of the judge and reveal that they are taking that position of refusing to follow the judge.
It's too valuable for them to use elsewhere where the judge won't question.
It's a similar tactic you've seen quite often in conjunction with court cases that evidence was gathered through stingrays or dirt boxes, where the local law enforcement will actually drop the case rather than admit that they use these devices.
Right.
I see.
Yep, because they'll finally get a case that's even bigger and better, and or as equally as important, and no one will question. The defense will have a much poorer lawyer, and no one will question.
It's an interesting legal strategy they're taking.
It is. But it's interesting and fantastic, and something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and a little frightening at the same time.
Yep. Yeah. So my story number 5 was one of the Minecraft forum hacked. The Minecraft forum used the Pocket Edition, so you could use Pocket Edition to do network-based games. And one of the stories I was reading, I think it was on Facebook, and I was distracted. It said 7 million users, but turns out it was only about 16,000 users. And right after the site was hacked, the domain registration expired. So the site is no longer available, and you can't find anybody to ask any questions because it's gone. The one that sort of struck me and gave me some question about this is that from the forum software, the user's passwords were hashed with MD5. Okay, we know that's not a great idea, but when, say, my mom goes and sets up a forum software for quilting, and she installs software and she does her thing, and quilting, and the site gets hacked, and passwords get disclosed in MD5, is it her fault, or is it the people that developed the forum software that she used? Because my mom would never have the ability to patch the forum software to use SHA-1 or Blowfish or anything like that.
The implementers, typically it's in the implementation, not so much the software. Well, probably both.
But
I imagine some software you have some control over how passwords are stored, and other software you don't.
Don't, right. And in the cases where you don't, say like a forum piece of software, you might not, great, my shit gets hacked and my user's passwords get out there, and it was something that I downloaded that was free off the internet, or I paid for off the internet, and who's really to blame, and that type of stuff. Becomes an interesting conundrum for me.
Yeah.
Just to
LastPass, use different passwords for everything.
Yeah, where do you point the blame in that? Like we always say, why are you using MD5? Well, this was some free stuff that I downloaded off the internet. So thousands of WordPress sites hacked, right? Well, I downloaded WordPress. I mean, I can't be expected to patch WordPress, right?
Good Lord. And all the plugins that come with it. And your theme. Make sure your CSS doesn't have vulnerabilities.
You get to the point of going, I don't want to run this anymore.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm actually going through that right now, and one of the ways that I'm trying to work around this is one of the ways Kevin Johnson had proposed to do WordPress is that you do WordPress internally behind multiple layers of SSH tunnel, VPN, you name it, and you can publish your content to an internal WordPress server. That requires all sorts of hoops to get there to begin with. Internal WordPress server, which then on a script basis exports everything to static HTML and rsyncs it to a public site. So it's all static HTML and no comment and no dynamic content.
Yeah.
So then you have a website that has all dynamic content that you can do. It doesn't scale.
No, but you say there's really... there is such a thing as static HTML, but it's rare. There is going to be JavaScript. There is going to be CSS involved. And from my understanding those languages now, CSS isn't really a language, but there's a lot of dynamic components.
Yep. So to the best of my knowledge, some of the stuff that
certainly better because WordPress is PHP and interacts with a database.
Yep.
I take my chances with HTML5 and CSS3 and JavaScript before I would introduce PHP in database.
And that's one of the things I have to go back and look at, and thanks for bringing that up, that from my understanding, the exports that I was doing does not include any JavaScript, but it does include cascading style sheets. Mostly because the way I was gathering the static content, wget.
Yeah. Yeah, you almost need to.
So I'm getting what was presented to the browser and not necessarily the JavaScript.
It's interesting.
But could be. So I've got to look at that some more.
I had an article about staying secure in a hotel. Which is
don't fucking use wireless.
Yeah, so it's Captain Obvious, right? But number 7, it says avoid using desk and lamp USB ports in the hotel room.
What?
That's what it says. It says a lot of them. Hotel rooms now have like USB ports that you can just plug your phone directly into, and they say that there's a chance that someone has like tampered with those and backdoored them. Possible, certainly.
It is conceivable.
It is conceivable, but I don't know how plausible.
How realistic and plausible?
Yeah. Like your chances of. So do you take apart all your lamps first and Now I kind of, every time I stay in a hotel room, if there is a USB port, I'm going to take it apart and see if there is someone's device in there because I'm going to take it and do forensics on it.
Yep. Yeah, now, I would argue that...
Of course, there's probably legalities with doing that, right? Probably get in trouble for that.
The hotel, I would argue, is probably low drag, given that you have to rent a hotel room, you have to go to the hotel, and you have to swap the stuff out in every room, so you have to rent rooms and swap around and all that stuff. But someplace in public...
What if, every time you stayed in a hotel room, you swapped it out?
You'd have to stay in a whole lot of freaking hotel rooms for it to be super effective.
You have to make it connect to the hotel wireless to exfiltrate your data.
Yeah.
Because there's no Ethernet jacks in hotel rooms anymore.
No, rarely.
Rarely, right?
And then you'd have to run a cable across the room anyways, right? So, I mean, that's... Or it just has a payload that pops the machine and then connects over whatever connection they're on. But something in public, like
you're much better off.
Like phone
public,
charging
I would
station.
definitely stay away from.
Yep.
In
like
your hotel room, you're much safer. I'm not saying you're 100% safe ever, but I just thought it was kind of a weird one.
Yep.
Well, and honestly, take your little charging gadget and plug it into a AC outlet, for Christ's sake.
Yep.
Well, then that's what they
difficult.
recommend. Yeah, it's not that big of a charge. You know what I mean? Those little chargers are small.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually going to
just use your computer, right?
Yep.
So.
I'm actually going to buy a new one because the one that I've got is doesn't have all the high speed output power on all the ports.
Yeah.
And they have some of those that are really cheap now.
Like a charging station. Anchor makes a good one. I have a couple of Anchor ones.
Yeah, I have an Anchor one now, but it's not. It's one of the older ones. It's 3 or 4 years old.
Or sometimes what I do is because not so much in hotel rooms, but a lot of times you're in a place that you can't get to an outlet. I travel with multiple little battery packs all the time.
All the time.
They're so cheap now. Those things are awesome.
Yep. So
travel with your own battery pack. That way, when you're in a public place, like Larry said, you don't have to plug into any of that crap. You have your own. Now you have to charge your battery pack somewhere.
Yeah. So
and that it doesn't matter because there's no data on your battery pack.
Right.
You can plug that in anywhere.
So you want to get even goddamn cheap about that? You go to Deal Extreme and you buy the two 18650 battery to USB chargers that are like $2. Order like 30 of them, and then find friends that are willing to give you their old laptop batteries. Rip the battery packs apart, find the dead cells, charge those separately, put them in the things, and you've got basically a battery charger that costs you $3 and batteries for free.
Right.
Larry, that sounds like an awesome idea, being cheap and all, but it's not a good idea when you're trying to secure a bank. Your story.
I'm surprised you guys didn't talk about this last week. I really am.
So this actually ties back to an older story. So just kind of a highlight of this. A bank was using no firewalls and sub $200 previously used unmanaged switches to separate their production network from the actual SWIFT network, which is the network used to actually transfer money between banks throughout the world. And attackers were able to get in and actually transfer out $81 million
from a bank in Bangladesh.
From a bank in Bangladesh. But the only reason they were caught and the only reason they were not able to transfer out $1 billion is that they made a typo in one of their transactions. And I guess an analyst at Deutsche Bank caught it where they spelled the word foundation wrong. They kind of like foundation. And it's the only reason why they were not only able to transfer $1 billion out of this. So they got 81 and they still have no idea where it went.
Well, you'd be kicking yourself anyway. There's a big difference between $80 million and $1 billion.
Yep.
Wow.
There's also a big difference between a managed switch and a firewall.
Yeah.
There's several different kind of iterations of this story floating around, and they definitely it's a good use case example of why you should spend a few bucks on security, here and there.
Just a few, yeah.
So, Joff, if we have time, I want to hear about Joff's story.
Well, so this is an extension of Rowhammer, right? People remember the Rowhammer.
I do.
Bit flipping attacks. It turns out that there's been some new research. There was a finding that the Rowhammer can be triggered by what's called non-temporal code instructions, right? And I think this was known already.
Sounds like you should get a cream for that.
Yeah, I know, right? And there was a Rowhammer.js, which is a very slow bit flipping method that relied on JavaScript that was published. But last week there was a more practical exploit published which was a new approach to using non-temporal instructions to carry out bit flipping attacks. The result was it was practically demonstrated. No proof of concept code that I know of was released, but it was demonstrated that it could be potential with things like videos to actually trigger these non-temporal instructions, sort of booby trap videos or documents to trigger these non-temporal instruction and create bit flips. It's kind of like analogous to these bit flipping attacks being triggered almost like a buffer overflow attack, right? And that, malicious web apps could actually potentially be used to trigger bit flips. So I thought it was interesting from that perspective. It doesn't change the original research on Rowhammer. That still is what it is. That the same sort of instructions can potentially be repeated over and over and over and flip bits. It was just an extension on some practical attacks that would make it more realistic potentially. So I thought it was really, really interesting. And a new and unique potential vector that we might see emerge. It's all about gaining control of the machine, right? So that was what I was reading.
Awesome. I'd like to thank our special guest, Sean Metcalf, for coming on the show. Woo! That was a fun
awesome
interview. Awesome interview. If you're interested in Active Directory security. Thanks to all of our illustrious hosts here on the show tonight. Thanks to our studio sponsor, itpro.tv. A little plug for them, itpro.tv/hacknaked, save 30%. They've got training on Kali Linux, Metasploit, CEH, and a bunch of other certifications, but they've got some other things that are a little more advanced, but mostly for the people who want to get into security. I know there's a lot of those listeners here on the show.
Heck yeah.
So, yeah, itpro.tv/hacknaked, save 30%. They sponsor our studio, and they got cool T-shirts. Look at it; it looks like G.I.
Where's
Joe.
mine?
They got G.I. Joe.
They only sent one. Didn't
No,
they?
I'll give you some. I have some. They got a G.I. Joe one. They got a Back to the Future one.
Oh,
yeah, they're cool. I'll get you some.
Nice.
And that concludes Security Weekly for this week. Make sure you tune in next week. Larry, take us out.
Over and out.
Wow, that sounded really sexy.
It did.